In today's video, I'll be talking about this camera on my hand here. This is the Fujifilm GFX 100 medium format digital camera, and the third digital camera that Fujifilm make, something I own for the past 6 months. And I hope to share with you how I feel about this camera, and maybe you can make a better decision. Or if you're interested, just take a look and see what I say about something that is really quite expensive for a commercial camera, and how I feel about it after 6 months. So, welcome to Exactly Productions. I'm Richard here, and of course today is talking about this Fujifilm GFX 100 camera that has been already on the market for almost 6 months. I own it since it came out, and I think it's a fantastic imaging machine. But beyond the imaging machine, as a camera, there are many quirks to it. And today's video is really talking about those quirks, what I like, what I dislike. And if you are looking to buy a GFX 100, you probably will find whatever I say really useful. And if you are not, just enjoy the video here and then look at the photos that I took with this camera. They are truly fantastic. So I'll break this review into multiple parts. Firstly, the body and handling. Secondly, I'll talk about the autofocus. Third, I'll talk about IBIS. Fourth, the image quality. Fifth, the GF lenses. And lastly, I'll cover about my thoughts of this camera. I'll try to keep this short. And if you want to see the bookmarks, they're all below in the comments, and you can quickly jump to any section you want on this review here. So firstly, I will talk about is body and handling. So I'll get you out of the way what I didn't like about the body and handling to start with. I just dislike the grip. Be it the grip on the horizontal way, the standard way, or the vertical grip. Both of them just, if you want to put it in a very simple way, they suck. For some reason, the grip is just not stable. It's deep enough, my finger can get in, but it just doesn't bend in certain ways that I never felt confident holding this camera. And this camera is really heavy. The body is 1.4 kg, the lens is like 600 grams, that makes it 2 kg. And on the the viewfinder on top, that will make it 2.2 kg. And then if you want to put an L plate, whatever, that's 3 kg easily. And with a 3 kg camera, it has a relatively lousy grip, if you want to ask me. I use many cameras. I have touched so many cameras in the past 6 months. I think the GFX 100 has one of the worst grip ever. Probably the only maker that can beat it is Sony in terms of the grip, be it any orientation you want. In fact, this grip here is so unstable for even this small little lens setup that I never use it. I'll do the very traditional chicken wing style over the head type of shoot when I want to go do portraits. So I pretty much got the grip out of the way. That's the most disgusting thing on this camera, if you ask me. Then everything else is either neutral or I quite liked it. So the firstly is the top LCD here, and I can't show you here. The top LCD is fantastic. It shows you all the information you need. And the best part, it works when it's on and off. So when I off the camera, like now, I off the camera, I still know where my images are stored to, and therefore I know exactly which SD card to pull out. For example, now it's 2, so I just pull out SD card 2 to just extract the images. Really convenient. And straight off, it also shows the power life of the 2 batteries inside, and I know immediately whether to charge this camera or not. Now, talk about charging. This camera is really lenient. You can pretty much charge it with any power source, any USB power source, be it a USB 5V 2M or 5V 3M or 5V PD or whatever, any form of USB-C. As long as you can plug in the camera, this camera probably charge. It is a lot more lenient than, say, the EOS R, which is very picky, only charges on PD chargers. So charging is so convenient on this camera, and it has 2 batteries inside. The speed of charging is also very good. If you're using a USB PD, this camera charges less than 3 hours for a full battery life. And the batteries for these two, together, if you shoot in live view, it probably lasts you for almost about maybe 6 hours of shooting non-stop with live view on, which is actually the biggest power consumption, not the shutter. Every time they talk about shutter, is the consumption of power? No, it's the live view. And these 2 batteries here will last you about 6 hours non-stop usage. And you probably will not do that, because who shoots for 6 hours in a row, right? Of course, there are some projects that does it, but probably not most. And you can, if it's really that long, you use USB to power this camera. It's also possible. And the other thing that I really like is something inherited from the previous GFX camera, which is the GFX 50S, and that is the tilt LCD. Really, the tilt, not tilt LCD, the tilt EVF. So the tilt EVF with the tilt LCD pretty much allows you to shoot in almost any situation you can find yourself in without proning on the ground. You know, when I always use the USR, at times I just can't see the LCD, and I just wish it has a top EVF like the GFX 100. Allows me to shoot really low angles without touching the ground. That's the most important part of things here. However, there is something that they hide, one function they hide, which is the sensor on the back LCD. And this sensor will actually deactivate the EVF. And at times, it's quite irritating because when I pull out the LCD, I want to check the EVF for sharpness, because in bright daylight, I really can't see the sharpness on the LCD. I can't trust it. Sometimes it doesn't work. So it's irritating, and it only works sometime and sometime not. So just to note that. So other than that, pretty much in body handling, there's nothing much to say. The amount of buttons are okay. A lot of people complain that there's not enough buttons, but over a long period of usage, and you map every single button, including the one at the bottom here, it works out pretty much fine. I have more than enough buttons to get my job done. So that is about it for the body handling of the GFX100. It's a very heavy camera. It has a sucky grip, very nice top LCD, nice tilt EVF, easy to charge with any USB-C supply. Body and handling of the GFX100. So the next thing I'll talk about is autofocus, and I'll tell you that when Fujifilm first launched the GFX100, they touted it as one of the best autofocus system. No doubt, it is the best autofocus system for a medium format camera, but it's far from the best in terms of mirrorless cameras. So how I rate it? In bright daylight, it is fine. The continuous AF works pretty much okay. If you're not shooting very fast moving subject, it will track perfectly fine. If you use single shot, it is extremely accurate and it works very well in bright daylight. Now, IAF is something that Fujifilm say that is very good on a GFX100, and my experience, together with my friend's experience, who also owns a GFX100, say we felt that the IAF is not reliable enough. There is many a time it doesn't detect or it jumps around the eyes. I won't trust the IAF for the GFX100 to do most of the work, because a lot of times I have to switch back to the standard single point or continuous AF to get my job done. So it's still better to just use the traditional style of autofocus, moving the points around. This is a bit of a bummer because the EOS R does such a good job. The Sony system does such a good job. Fujifilm just requires a bit of catch up in terms of algorithm for the IAF. Now, all these are in good light. So in poor light, I find that the GFX100 suffers a lot. We are just talking about maybe lighting that requires ISO 800 for 100 shutter. The AF struggles a little because of probably the lenses are quite slow, f2.8, f4, except for the 110, which is f2. Most of the lenses are quite slow and they really move a lot to focus. So I find that in a low light situation, single shot is still reliable, but continuous AF tends to hunt a little bit too much. And I couldn't trust it either for my own personal shoot or even for any form of work for the studio. So no, I will definitely not utilize the continuous AF in low light. Single shot, still perfectly fine, still very accurate, but definitely not continuous AF. So pretty much that's for autofocus. So if you notice, I have never said about using this camera to track fast moving subject, because for some reason, it depends on lens a lot, and let's say the 63mm here, it just moves a little bit too slow, while maybe the 110 moves a bit fast enough. It really depends on the lens, and those with the LM motor will probably track better than those without. But overall, I find that tracking is not very reliable for fast moving subject. It's okay for maybe slow jogs. That's about it for the autofocus system. That being said, this is still the best autofocusing system for medium format, and for mirrorless, it's okay. I would say it's probably slightly better than the Nikon Z6 that I tested a few months back. Okay, there's a new firmware for it. But with that firmware then, it felt lousier than the GFX100. So pretty much okay still, not too bad for a 100 megapixel medium format camera. That is so much for AF. And next up, IBIS. So for IBIS, Fujifilm say that you can do many stops of handheld control and what's not. Inbuilt body image stabilization for a medium format, is a big deal. But that being said, in real world, I would say that it gives you the advantage of up to half focal length, or if you ask me in terms of stops, 2 effective stops. Why do I say 2 effective stops? Because with a 100 megapixel sensor, if you off the IBIS, right, you probably can't shoot the 63mm lens and get very sharp results with 150 shutter or 160 shutter. You probably need 120 shutter to always nearly confirm that you get a sharp shot with steady hands. Now with the IBIS, right, if you are shooting at 160, it will guarantee you to have a relatively sharp shot, and at 130 you probably can still get a sharp shot as long as the subject is not moving. That's why I say it's about 2 effective stops compared to whatever that Fujifilm tried to say, 4 or 5 effective stops. I don't think so. And with the 110 lens, I can shoot as low as 160 or 150 safely, but below that I always feel that there's too much miss in terms of sharpness that I don't really like. There's just a little too much softness. Now, in terms of safe to shoot shutter speed, even with IBIS, I would say as for this 63mm lens, you probably need 160, and for a 110mm lens, you need 1 to 100 shutter. So that is pretty much for IBIS if it comes to photography. The purpose of the IBIS is to ensure that this 100 megapixel sensor gets a sharp image rather than trying to give you like insane low light capabilities of 1 second handheld shots or what's not. Don't imagine those things. Those are for micro four thirds. So the IBIS is also very good for videos, and if you see this video here, just take a short look at this few second videos I shot. Now, this video is shot with the GFX 100 at f/22, and my subject is moving, I'm just moving around, and you can see it's actually quite smooth. The IBIS do work relatively well. That shot is done with, I believe, the GF 45mm lens, so really quite smooth for a medium format IBIS. So definitely for movie making, though this camera is a bit too big for movie making and probably too big for handheld hybrid camera shooting, but if you really want to stabilize your video, the IBIS in the GFX 100 does work decently well. Okay, that is pretty much it for IBIS, and the next thing I'll talk about is image quality. Now, image quality is a big deal for a medium format camera because, if you ask people what's a medium format camera, and any photographer will tell you supreme image quality. Now, the GFX 100 of course doesn't have the biggest medium format sensor ever. That belongs to the Phase 1 150 megapixel or the old Phase 100 or the Hasselblad H6D with the 100 megapixel sensors. Those have way bigger sensors than this sensor here, and therefore at the sensor level they will outperform this sensor. And the outperformance I would say is about half stop to 1 stop based on my last experience. I'm not very sure about that, but they definitely do provide more dynamic range, and with the right lens, probably a little bit sharper at the pixel level. But that said, those cameras cost 3 to 4 times the price of this, this whole setup here. So definitely they have to be slightly better. Now, below those insane monsters of the 40K or 50K range, the GFX 100 really reigns supreme in terms of image quality. And I have used, as I said, quite a bit of camera for the last 6 months, and none of them gave me the flexibility, the image quality, and the dynamic range of this camera sensor here. The GFX 50S or the S1R, the only thing I have not tried in recent years is the A7R4. I also tried the A7R3, A7R2. I'll tell you that the GFX 100 sensor is better than those sensors. Now, when I say better, doesn't mean that it will shoot magical images. It just means that it is more flexible. It can be used in most scenarios. It can be used in almost any lighting and situation, and still produce you a file that you can edit, push, and get back whatever image you want. And in the end of the day, I always say that the GFX 100 produce you an image quality that you really can appreciate if you are an editor, you are a photographer. Now the end users will see whatever that is processed, so it's nothing much to do with the sensor itself. But the ability to shoot in almost any condition without without the need of a flash does make this GFX 100 really, really magical. Of course, in the end of the day, the quality of the image will depend on your skill, but I can tell you that outright image quality, this sensor reigns supreme below the $20,000 mark. Now, there is some times where this sensor don't shine that well, there is bending. I will tell you that in the last 50 shoots I've done, I never saw it, I never noticed it, but if you hunt for it, you probably can get it in the deepest shadow or the brightest highlight. But my personal experience tells me that, unless you really, really go and look for it, you will not see it and I really can't see for the last 50 shoots. In fact, most of the time, I will never be pushing 5 stops up and down. So if you are doing that, you may see it. If not, like me, you probably not see it. Now, a lot of people have this misconception that dynamic range and pushing shadows and highlights is the only thing that is important for a sensor. But if you ask me, it's the retainment of the colors that are more important than the actual recovery of shadows and highlight details. Because if the color is off, right, it just makes your whole workflow a mess thereafter. And the GFX 100 does maintain color very well. In fact, if you ask me in terms of skin tone color, this is probably the only sensor that I've used in the last 2 years that really can maintain skin tone colors even up to 4 stops of recovery or 4.5 stops of recovery in the shadows. Definitely the GFX 100 does deliver. And if you look at all the images here, they are shot in adverse conditions, be it harsh light from the front, harsh light from the back, backlighting, everything. The sensor does deliver a file that you can push and edit and get the image you want without bringing extreme lighting gears and what's not. So the GFX 100 gives you convenience in terms of shooting where you want. It gives you supreme image quality. The next section I want to cover, because it's so important, it's not about the sensor in the GFX system. It is about the lens. And the next section, we'll talk about the GFX 100 lenses. Now, Fujifilm made a very good bunch of GF lenses, be it the 63mm, the 50mm, the 110mm, the 32-64, the 45, the 23, the 100-200, the newest 4500. All of these are just fantastic and phenomenal lenses. I will tell you that among all the lenses here, the only lens I didn't really buy, I didn't really like outright is the 100-200, because I felt that the corner had a bit too much CA. And I'm talking about too much, it's like 1 pixel, And 100 megapixel, why is 1 pixel CA? Nobody knows, nobody cares. But that being said, it is the worst performer out there. And in most adverse conditions, this lens here, the 63mm, which is quite a cheap lens, is the second most expensive, is the second cheapest lens, not the most expensive. Second cheapest lens is after the 50mm, which is really that cheap today. This lens has almost no CA in most conditions. In fact, it totally beats the RF 50mm when it comes to CA control. When I compare to the Otus, it totally beats the Otus 55mm too. So this lens is really just fantastic. Now the Otus may beat this lens in terms of sharpness after it stops down to f2.8. And the CA may have cleared up by then and what's not, but wide open, this lens is just fantastic. You must not forget that this is a medium format lens and is equivalent to something like an f2 lens. The Otus at f2 is at most on par with this, if not slightly lousier than this 63mm here, which only costs probably 1/4 of the price of the Otus. Now let's not talk about the 110. If you look at my review here, totally fantastic lens, and if to some photographer that is probably the only lens they ever need if they shoot portraits. Fantastic lens. And without them, the GFX system will be incomplete. So a lot of people think that the GFX system is about the camera. No, it's about the lens. And that's the reason why I don't adapt, because the GF lens are just beautiful. So that is pretty much it. I've talked about everything I want to talk about at the start. So it leaves me with my final thoughts. So first we want to talk about is the price. This thing didn't drop price. It is still 10,000 USD or 15,000 Sing. Of course, you can probably get a 14,000 Sing today in the shop, street price, what's not. But it's still a really expensive camera. And in the last 7 months, the A7R4 has launched. Canon is announcing the EOS R5. Many of the people are launching 45 megapixel, 47 megapixel cameras. They are not very far from this 100 megapixel. Yes, 100 is twice, but it doesn't give you twice the dimension. So today, the GFX 100 is a much harder thing to sell, considering that it's 3 times the price of the A7R4. However, I will tell you that compared to all the other cameras that I use, except the A7R4, I have not touched it yet. The quality from this file is just way, way, way better. So if you are really aiming for supreme image quality, the GFX 100 is still the supreme image quality, at least below $20,000. Now, you must not forget that the GFX 100 is still a medium format camera. So as such, a lot of its handling, a lot of its focus, IBIS, is still limited because the sensor is huge, it's heavy, the glasses are also huge and heavy. Everything is just larger and slower on the camera itself. So, you trade image quality for convenience in terms of handling, ease of handling and stuff. The GFX 100 is definitely not good. But the file, as I say, can be utilized in almost any situation, be it with flash or without flash. I think that is totally magical. So if you have the money to burn, right, or your commercial work requires it, or you really just want a camera with top-notch image quality, this is probably it. And I don't foresee that this sensor will lose out to any sensor going to be launched in the next year or two. At least as long as Sony is the best sensor maker in the world, probably there'll be no better sensor in the viable commercial market that can beat the GFX 100 sensor here. And I don't put too much hope that the EOS R5 have a better sensor than the Sony 100 megapixel sensor inside this camera. I think the EOS R5, based on the latest reading by Photon to Photos, the 1D Mark is finally better than the A9 sensor, but still is behind the A7 III sensor. So I don't really put too much hope that the R5 will be a huge leap in image quality. It'll probably be as good as the A7 III at most. And this sensor here is at least half a stop or 3/4 of a stop better than A7 III in terms of dynamic range, in terms of color control, in terms of noise. Pretty much the GFX 100 probably will still reign supreme for the years to come. And that's about it for my review. I hope you enjoy it. This is my feel of a camera that I've used for 6 months. I hope you really, enjoy this video because I really love this camera so much. And if you ask me, yes, it's the most expensive camera. Of course, you should love it. There's so much quirks about it, but if I want to shoot, if I want to take photos, I want to take images, this is still my go-to camera, even if it weighs almost 3 kg today. I hope you enjoyed this video and see you next time.